amazing aspect of it is you're creating this with your own brain. You don't need a drug to do it, and it's been phenomenal.
Wow.
So, Mel, why don't you tell them? I mean, you're involved in a lot of drug studies, or have been. Both of you have been involved in drug studies. Tell them about the response that you're seeing with our measurements.
Yeah, I mean, this is 7 days, right? And so if you were to take a drug for 7 days, you likely would not see this type of effect. So one of the things that Joe talks about is how if you use matter to change matter, and a pill, a diet, exercise, all of these things are matter, right? So to change your body with those kinds of matter-of-fact kinds of things are gonna take months to do. We do lots of studies with time-restricted eating. We don't see a benefit until about 3 months. When we do these studies here, we're seeing effects in 3-4 days.
Yeah, and besides the timing, the effect size is really dramatic too. Typically when you do studies, often you see small percentage changes. You know, I don't know, 1-2 points change on the scale from 1 to 10, those kind of things. And you usually have to treat a lot of people with the same drug to see some responders and non-responders. So the fact that we literally see 100% responders in this work is really, you don't see that.
So, I went to Toby's clinic years ago, and you know, when you're seeing patients and you're busy, it's hard to really be present, and I knew that, but I was doing an event in Palm Springs, and we went over there to say hi to him, and we sat down for a few minutes, and then finally he came to an event in Mexico. Dr. Hillary got in there, and he watched a person on a stage with stage 4 cancer go into remission. And, you know, he saw her scans, he heard the story. She had tried every surgery, she tried chemotherapy, she tried the radiation, she tried the diet, she tried the exercise, nothing was changing until she had an interaction with energy. And there it was gone, and it had spread to all of her organs as well. And so I came to breakfast, and this guy was like right in my face, and we gotta start measuring. And I said, I know, get in here and help us, you know. And then, you know, Hamel came in, and you know, he's an empirical scientist, and he's very well published. And so the fact that he showed up was just an honor to begin with. And he's the guy, as I said, that was part of the twin study. Take 2 people with identical gene expressions, keep someone to outer space and keep one on Earth, and since they have the same exact genome, what are the variations due to the environment? And so it's really instrumental in creating a lot of the tests that we're doing on our groups, on our community. And so he brings his postdoc to one of our events, and these guys actually participate in the event because I want them to have the experience. And the third day I went to breakfast, and I sat down, and there was a guy sitting across the table from me, and I said to my staff, "Who's that?" And they said, that's Juan. I said, "What? That's Juan? You look like a completely different person, a researcher." And he was making the connection that week. It was beautiful to watch that what he was studying, he was the guy that was checking the blood, he was the guy that was looking at the resistance from the virus. And you know, he was asking me, like, well, how is that possible? And I said, listen, most people, their response to everything in their environment weakens them. They react to different people, different circumstances, different times and places in their normal life, and their unconscious emotional reaction weakens the organism because of the stress response, because of those emotions. You ask that person, why are they unhappy? Why are you in a bad mood? I'm in this bad mood because of that person or that circumstance. My environment, my outer world is controlling the way I feel and the way I think. One thing that controls the way I feel and the way I think, I'm victim to whatever that is. So people live by the unconscious program that they're victims to their environment. They don't know they're doing it. And when things are good, they feel good and think good. And when things are bad, or the environment is saying something else, they feel bad. And so they're very controllable by their emotions and those programmed thoughts. So then if people begin to create more balance in their nervous system, and they can begin to get that heart thumping in order. And we can do that. We can teach people how to do that in a few days. You get that brain that's completely disintegrated, disorderly, focusing more coherently and more orderly. When the brain is incoherent, you're incoherent. When the brain is coherent, you're coherent. And get that brain really coherent. And learn a formula to be able to do that. So much so that when you're feeling those elevated emotions, your body's believing it's in a different environment. And if you keep doing that, it doesn't know the difference between the outer experience that's creating the emotion and the emotion that the person's creating by thought alone. You do that enough times, the body becomes conditioned into that emotion. The response from that person in the environment is they're no longer a victim to their environment, and that means they're more immune or more resistant to anything in their environment. And teach them how to do that, and it'll be a natural side effect. And we've measured people. Give up fear, give up anxiety, give up frustration, resentment, impatience, and just feel gratitude and love. Just for 4 days. Let's just measure that. Let's see what happens to your immune system. IgA, immunoglobulin A, the body's greatest flu shot, the greatest vaccine, the body, IgA. 50% increase in IgA in 4 days. Damn. I said the one that they're making their natural pharmacy of white blood cells and immunity. And I said to him, how is it going to change the way you do research? He said, I see this as medicine. I know that that's medicine right there. I've watched it, what it's done to the cells. And so when people start figuring that out, when they start really realizing that most of the time their personal reality is creating their personality, their effect of their environment, they're going to wait for their success to feel empowered. They're going to wait for their wealth to feel abundant. They're going to wait for their healing to feel wholeness and gratitude. They're going to wait for their relationship to feel love. They're going to wait for the mystical moment to feel awe, the old model of reality. Wait for it to change out there to take away my emptiness, my lack, my fear, my separation. But in the quantum world, your thoughts and feelings generate energy. And the more coherent your brain and heart is, the more you got a Wi-Fi signal. And that's just the way it is. And this is not positive thinking. This is about changing your energy. And nobody changes in their life until they change their energy. I've been at this long enough, I can tell you that. When you change your energy, you change your life. And so then it would make sense then. It would make sense to the person that was astute on this journey, that if they could take a little time out of their life and ask themselves, if I feel abundant and worthy, I could generate wealth. If I started feeling gratitude and wholeness, my healing could begin. If I was in love with life and in love with myself, I would attract an equal. And if I was that person, not just doing it for that, but I became the very person I wanted to be with, wow, what would that do? And I would be in awe of life. I could have a mystical moment. I think that when we feel empowered, we step towards our success. We don't have to wait for it to happen. We're actually creating it in some way. It would make sense then that you would check yourself out at the beginning of your day before you reach for that cell phone. And you'd say, who do I want to be today? Let me stay conscious of my unconscious thoughts. So conscious of them I wouldn't go unconscious. Let me become aware of how I act and how I speak, with what kind of limitation. I want to become so aware that I won't go unconscious and do that today. I want to change that person. How long are you going to feel sad? How long are you going to feel pain? How long? How long? You got to give that up, and you got to drag that body out of the past. And that's the hard work. You say to yourself before you open your eyes, how am I going to think today? How am I going to act? How am I going to feel? The act of thinking about what you want to tell yourself and repeating it with intent and attention installs circuitry. Keep doing it, becomes the new voice in your head. How am I going to act in the Zoom call, on the meeting with my kids, with my parents, with my family? Rehearse it in your mind. The research shows you install the circuitry to look like you already did it. Now the brain is primed for the event. Ask yourself, can I teach my body what success and wealth feels like? So much so that I become it. And then I no longer have to go get it. That's the old model. You can do all the gimmicks and all that stuff. It worked for a while. But what you really want to do is you want to draw it to you, don't you? You want to be the source of that. Change your energy. and watch those synchronicities and the serendipities and the coincidences and the opportunities show up because you're changing.
Dr. Joe, you are absolutely amazing. We've only got about 10 more minutes, and we're going to have an opportunity to ask some questions. But before that, I just wanted to have some clarity, because again, I didn't know who Dr. Joe was when it brought it up. And they said, well, before you meet him, why don't you just talk to Dr. Hamel? And I went, okay, San Diego, went over, and said, I'm the biggest skeptic in the world. And I said, so teach me. And he goes, well, just so you know, me too. He goes, I didn't know what to do. And more importantly, my wife is, and she thinks that I'm a nut job because I'm looking at this stuff. And when he started looking at examining the facts, numbers, math doesn't lie. That's the bottom line. When you're taking blood samples and brain scans and you're seeing different results, well, that is the truth of the truth. And you're hearing the word speak. You can feel it when he's even speaking right now, so you're feeling a change in your body, right? That just shows how powerful this information truly is. Who would like to ask a question of Dr. Joe Dispensa? And by the way, this is Dr. Mack right here. Go ahead, ask a question.
Yeah, this is amazing data. And Dr. Patel, I mean, when I was looking at the data, I mean, there are so many parameters that I'm sure you have aggregated and looked at every parameter that can be of great value. And I was just thinking, what kind of biomarkers you think, I mean, maybe you can name of 2 or 3, those are seen by you, and the data shows that it really improves.
And by the way, before you answer, just so you know, so Mac is the chief medical scientist for Pfizer. He created the drug Zoloft and Z-Pack and all stuff, so that's why he's asking that question.
If there's a patent attorney in the room, I should probably talk to them first. So
We'd love to tell you.
I know.
We're not going to.
We see a lot of changes, and the running joke that I tell Joe is I've got the cure for every disease in my freezer. And even though we see this 100% response, there is a commonality in all of the responses we see. But there are superhumans that we've looked at. I mean, we call them superhuman. Their blood has created biology that's gonna cure cancer, cure everything we're looking at.
No, well, I just want to interrupt him because he's being humble. But when you take uterine cancer cells and you see the mitochondrial action in there, and you subject the blood of advanced meditators to those cells, and you see a 75% or so reduction in mitochondrial function, you're taking the fuel out of the cancer cell, and the engine's dropping by 75%. It's a very exciting moment for anybody who's looking at it, because you don't see much of that, right? So that's the kind of stuff we're discovering.
Here's another question. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, so, just one follow-up, quick one. Is C-reactive protein, you think that is one of the good biomarkers, you think?
It could be.
This is like a magician telling the trick.
No, we can't tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want you to even show those slides to your friends. We haven't even published the paper. Just let us show it to the world first,
Go ahead.
okay?
Is there an impact of this on things like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, and dementia?
Of course.
Ooh.
Of course.
You
It's
go
neurological.
first.
We do have data that we're looking at specific proteins for Alzheimer's disease, and we see some downward trends surprisingly in the novice meditators across an age spectrum. And so it suggests that whatever they're doing during that week, there is a dramatic decline in proteins that target AD. The other thing that Nick and Tiff have been doing is they've been building in cognitive testing as part of the brain mapping, and their brains are functioning way better after a week-long workshop than before. And so what Toby showed with PTSD, all those malformations you see, I think meditation is creating positive formations in your brain that are recreating biology.
Right.
And by the same means, we have great testimony of people that come to a week-long event, and they're completely different. Their paralysis, their spastic paralysis, their pill rolling, their all their limitations are gone. I mean, we've had more than one have changes in Parkinson's, which has been pretty cool.
And Joe, your events, I mean, they're selling out literally within seconds worldwide. It's phenomenal how many people you're impacting.
That's a big problem for us. we put an event online and it sells out in 5 minutes, 1,500 people, and we have 9,000 people or so on the waiting list. It's a problem for us. But the cool thing is that a lot of our colleagues, those of you that have just asked these questions, they corner me all the time. They say to me, "Are you saying that the blood of advanced meditators are resistant to COVID?" And I say, "No, I'm not saying that. The data's saying that. I'm not saying that. The data's saying that." And I've been waiting for so long to say that, because I said from the very beginning, we should never let science give us permission to do the uncommon. We should go out and do the uncommon and then have science come and study us.
Nice.
Beautiful. Question back here, go ahead.
Dr. Dispensa, I was wondering if you guys had measured samples for malignant melanoma.
We have not.
So the goal right now is to look at the healthy individuals, and we're doing that purposefully. I think if we ultimately over the next year and a half, what we want to build is a meditation-induced map of what a healthy individual does. The idea is then we will eventually look at cancers and other diseases, see where they can sort of fill on this map, and then help guide them to how you can create sort of that healthy atmosphere. And so that's where we're headed.
All right, go ahead.
Maybe one quick comment to that, summarizing some of the earlier questions too. I think what the map is going to allow us to do is really see the individual responses in the individual people, because I do not believe, I mean, we're speculating here, but I do not believe that we're going to find the silver bullet or the meditation factor. I think it's more what Joe said before, that the disease comes when you're out of homeostasis, and for each individual, they start different, different disease. And for them to get back to homeostasis, it's going to be a different array of things that have to be coming back into balance.
But
so this is
this
is how meditation.
This is what we're looking for. So if stress is autonomic dysregulation, when we're correlating people's profound moments where they're having that kind of arousal of ecstasy or bliss, that energy that's moving through their nervous system, many times there's a biological upgrade that goes on in the system, because what we're studying from the brain science is that the autonomic nervous system that controls and coordinates all the other systems, there's an enormous amount of order in there, and the brainwave pattern is a very coherent gamma brainwave pattern in the autonomic nervous system, and that's a lot of order. That's an enormous amount of upregulation that goes on, and there's the disease, and then there's a dramatic change, or the person has had a turbulent past, a brutal past, suicidal, with all kinds of health conditions. In that instant, it's like the past was removed out of their brain and body, and the person is completely changed. The energy's informing matter in some way, and we're trying to figure that out.
And then over here we have our last question, and then we're going to wrap up. Go ahead.
I got one more back or two. Okay, here we go, real quick.
Go.
Dr. Dispensa, nice to meet you. I'm Greg's friend, friends with a lot of people in the room. I think what you're doing is amazing. Very quickly, so June 9th of 17, I was in a bad accident. I was in bed for a year. I was sensitive. It was whiplash concussion, the occipital lobe. I didn't wear glasses prior. And basically, for 2 years, we didn't know what was going on. I went all around the world trying to find answers, spent a fortune, went down to very low. Bottom line is I met some people in this room that helped to get me to certain points, and I'm here now, and I'm doing things. I'm having this conversation, thank God. However, my glasses can't come off, like even for 2 seconds. The occipital lobes, there's excess delta waves. They showed the occipital lobe is like on fire, when they're in essence spasming. And I constantly, and you don't even know this, probably 70% of the time, if you spun around in a circle 10 times and then try to walk, that's literally how I feel in my head. I get up, I do it anyway, and I put people together, and I try to help people's dreams come true. But I'm looking for answers. I've even talked to Dr. Oz and other people too that I've met. So I'm very open, my friend.
Wow. Well, every case is individual. We have seen people with brain injuries have some pretty great change. And a simple principle, I'll let Nick and Tiff, I think you should probably chat with those guys, because they're super open-minded scientists, and they run a great clinic at the same time. But I will tell you that the amount of coherence that we're seeing in the brain, and these guys will tell you this, most people, there's a certain amount of coherence, but when there's energy, that kind of coherence tends to organize incoherence. And the greater the energy of that coherence, the more enlivened cells get, or the more there's an upgrade. So the probability of certain energy in the brain, what we've seen, is statistically impossible, and we're seeing people sustain those states for an extended period of time. So they're interacting with energy, and it's energy that's can inform matter. So I would talk to those guys, but come see us at an event and try it out.
Yeah. And Dr. Joe, I got a just kind of curious question. You've been wanting to see this information quantified, and now that you are seeing it, how does that make you feel? It's got to feel amazing, right?
I keep telling these guys, I can't believe this is true. I can't believe it. I mean, I've always believed it, but now I'm really believing it because I can say so many things with conviction now. I can say them with such certainty because I know now because we've measured it, and I can say, how do I know that? We measured it, and it seems to be recurrent, and it's hopeful. It's so hopeful for the world to know that. It's so hopeful to know that they don't need anything out there to change their inner state. That's the whole program. Let's change their inner state and see what goes on out there. Right? So I'm excited every day. These guys, Cornell always says, he texts me, do you have a minute? I have some compelling data to show you. All over on the side of the road. What?
And I think, we feel the same way because one thing when we started working together was clear when Emma and I talked to Joe, we're not here to prove you, we're not here to disprove you, we're just here to find the truth as good as we can. And this is why we're all in the game.
That's right. So I'm going to end with this, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I'm working on a new major bestseller and a motion picture called The Secret of Happiness. And I'm going to go on a journey for a year and a half and talk to everyone I can to find out if there's an ROI, a true return on investment for people that live a happy life. And is there a way to change their way that they look at things? And it'd be an honor if our group can come talk to you and actually pick your brain and look at the science, maybe do a brain map or two to see if they can change the way they look at life. Are you open to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Done deal. All right. Put that together, Dr. Joe Dispensa, everybody.
I want to thank Dr. Joe for coming out, but also, since it's so hard to get to these events, would you consider donating 2 tickets to one of your events to the Tub of Love?
3 tickets!
2 tickets to the Tub of Love.
Okay, here's the deal. This is called the Tub of Love, and the speakers, many of the speakers, they volunteer and they put products or meetings with them or things of this nature into this Tub of Love. At the end of this conference, in another 30 minutes, someone's going to win every single thing. And so the whole idea is, the question is, your tickets are so hard to get, is it possible to put a couple future tickets into the Tub of Love?
Ooh, would they use it?
Yes!
Yes!
All right.
Yay!
Ron's the one who brought him here, and now he's got to pay the piper to him. This is beating him up after one. All right, guys, we got to wrap this thing up. Put your hands together, Dr. Joe Dispensa.